Hey guys, Johnny here with a cool tip I'd like to share. So I'd like to show you a nice workflow I've developed for solving the common problem of creating usable high-resolution texture maps from low-quality reference images. This is especially useful in the viz industry when a client has a custom material or pattern, and all you can really find of it are crappy low-resolution images online that are heavily compressed with, chromatic aberration and things of that sort. So this method isn't really perfect, but it works really well in most cases, and when it hasn't been exactly what I needed, it's at least gotten me a base, to the point where a little mixer brush can give it that last polish and detail. So what we use here are Illustrator and Photoshop, and we're going to take this example right here. It's not great quality. You can see all this fringing around here and all kinds of crazy compression banding, and all those little details are just washed out. And this is going to be a carpet, so we're going to take this pattern and clean it up and turn it into like a 5K texture map, so you can get real close to it, because this is non-tiling, although this method does work really well with tiling as well. So let's get to it. Alright, so we're going to open up Illustrator and open up our source reference image, and then we want to take it and scale it up. So you can see down there at the width and height. I'm going to make this guy pretty big. Yeah, give us a nice base. And it's actually not a big deal how big you make it initially, because this is all going to be turned into vectors, which is why we get the sharp patterns from low resolution images. But for now, I like to scale it up at first and then duplicate it, so that I can just kind of turn it on and off to see the new versus the old one, to make sure it's got decent continuity. So got it duplicated. Just click on the guy right there and go into live trace mode. And usually I'll either start with color 6 or color 16. For this one I'll start with color 6 because there aren't really that many colors, and we want to keep the bases, really. We don't need all that compression artifacts. So that gives us a really good base there already. As you can see, it's got most of the shapes in there, and it took out a lot of the really bad artifacting. It's got pretty good importance sampling. But we can adjust it a bit more. So I'm going to go click on it again like I did right there. So click on it again, and then over here are the tracing options for live trace. And we have basically 5 settings here that are going to control the quality of it. Right now we have max colors, so if you have a lot of different colors in it, you want to change the max colors. You don't want to take it too high though, because this is one of the biggest factors in the importance sampling on whether or not to bring in some of those really bad details that you get with the compressions. So I'm going to go with 5 here and turn on automatic previewing. So that got rid of some of the fringing around there. Like I said, we want to keep it as simple as possible because we're going to be adding the detail later. Your blur right here, this one's actually pretty good for this setting. But you can see, like, if you have a big map and there aren't that many details and you want to keep the shapes, you can kick up the blur a little bit and take out those nasty details. Actually, that looks pretty good at 1. Path fitting is nice for kind of smoothing out your paths as well. Play with that a little bit, turn it up. See, nice smooth path. Minimum area, this is great for getting rid of the artifacts as well, because the artifacts tend to be pretty small, so you can just adjust that minimum area to get what you want, or if you need more details, lower it. In this case, it really didn't do much. Corner angle is just the smoothness of your paths, so you can decrease it. I believe sharpens it. Yeah, it does. But I want to keep it smooth. So that actually looks pretty good. So super quick, super simple. You can see the difference between the two. It's pretty close. We could get some more detail in there. Let's check out our blurring. Kind of liked it how it was. 2. Alright. There we go. Very nice. So, as you can see, one of these colors is not here. I could increase the max color amount, but one of the great things about this is that they're vectors, so in Photoshop you can just grab the wand tool and take those pieces and change the color yourself. So instead of messing more with live trace, I'll just do that. So I'm going to take this new one, so click on it and Control-C to copy it, and go ahead and open up Photoshop. And go to New, and it's already brought in my texture here. It's actually, I'm not very good with Illustrator, so it's hard for me to tell how large the texture is at first. So I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger. Just close it out first. Since it's a vector, we can just make it as big as we want. So I made it bigger. I'm going to copy it again. Go ahead and open up Photoshop. Photoshop is not happy with me. Alright. So New. Cool. Just paste it, and then you want to do pixels normally. Just hit enter again for it to place. There we go. We got this big texture. Looks super sweet. What I do here usually is give it a Gaussian blur, but I usually turn them into a smart object first, so I can turn that blur on and off, or I'll duplicate it. But I like smart objects because they're just awesome. So either right click it, or if you have a shortcut, just convert to smart object. And then I go into blur and Gaussian blur and take it down. You just want to kind of get the blending between the two. Again, this is totally dependent on how large the resolution of your texture is, but I'm going to go with 3 right here. And then what we want to do is we want to find a bitmap or a bump map texture for whatever we want to turn this into. And in this case, it's supposed to be a kind of nice puffy carpet. So I'm going to take this bump map here, which I believe made from CGText. I'm not sure. I got it a while ago. And I'm going to bring it into here, over top of our image here. And a good thing to do is first to, actually I'm going to rasterize that, make a copy of the original size, under it, just in case. And I always keep track of how many times I duplicate it over. So I'm just holding Alt and Shift and moving it over, and it's making a duplicate. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to use, this full 4K or 5K image as a bump texture. I can just use this original one here and tile it the exact amount in max, so it saves some memory. So we'll just collapse those down by selecting all those, Control E. So we got the horizontal, and that's 4. And then I'll just collapse it down again that way. And lock it in. You don't really have to do that if it's not a tileable texture. In this case, it isn't supposed to be, but it can be, so I'm just going to do it anyway. So I am 4 by 3, and now all you really have to do is set the blending mode. So I just set it to overlay, which, if you don't know, the hotkeys for setting blending modes are Shift and Alt, and then the letter for it. So overlay is hold Shift and Alt and hit O, or soft light, Shift and Alt and hit F. But most of the time, just a straight overlay works really well. And you can see right there, that is a really nice texture map. And one thing I forgot to do actually, and the reason why I keep this smart filter here, is I forgot to change these colors. So I'll just turn off my smart filter for now and grab my wand tool, like 10 there, contiguous. So I'll grab those guys and go up here and grab these ones. And then I'm going to bring in our source here and grab that color. And I'll just do solid color. Okay. Then I'm going to turn that filter back on, and then I'll just blur this the same way with Control F, which basically just repeats the last filter you did, or you can hold Control Alt F to bring up the menu again for the last filter. Now we've got our texture overlay on, but as you can see, the overlay filter, or the overlay blend mode, kind of saturates things a lot, so you could also use multiply, so Control M, and that's pretty harsh, but you take down the opacity or use curves and clip it over there with just holding Alt and clicking between the two. You can clip it so the curves only affects the layer under it. That one right there. Pretty nice, pretty nice. But I like the overlay on this one, so I'm going to stick with overlay and maybe tune it down, maybe 70 or 80% opacity. And there we go. I mean, it's a pretty sweet texture map. Comparison to starting from this, you know. So we've got this guy, and then this huge high resolution one. If the overlay is too much for you, saturation wise, you can always just drop a hue saturation on there. Something I usually like to do after this process as well is to add in a bit of random wear and tear on it. So I'll put on like a hue saturation and take it way down, and then just paint the mask a little bit. I could use a scattered brush, or just hit F5 to turn scattering on this brush. Don't want to go to it. So, in our brush, turn that scattering on. Shape dynamics. Alright, and then I'll just turn the flow down a lot, maybe to 5%, and then kind of brush it over. And I made this a really heavy effect, really heavy desaturation, just so I could see how much of an effect it was having. And then I'm going to turn that down a bit once I get the mask I like. So kind of a little bit of wear and tear on there. Not bad, you get the example. And then just scale it back some. -12. That's good, nice and subtle. And that's it, really. It's pretty simple. Works really well. Hopefully it saves whoever watches this some time. And if you're fiddling with the workflow and you find a better way to do it, or anything that could help anyone else out as well, please feel free to leave a comment, and so we can all learn from it. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. Take care.